Hello again, I am Blunty. This is the Jupiter 8, a Soviet-era lens. These were manufactured from 1950 onwards, and it's a Soviet copy of a pre-war German Zeiss Sonnar 50mm f2.0 for the Contax system. You can find functional samples of this lens for anywhere between $30 and $200-ish, depending on their condition and year of manufacture. The one I have here is known to enthusiasts as the Red P version, marked by the red Cyrillic P embossed on the front of the lens barrel. This indicates it was manufactured in a window of time where they were using superior lens coatings, resulting in a better overall optical performance. Some enthusiasts also maintain that this red P indicates a period of manufacture where greater care was spent putting these things together. Lenses not marked with this red P are still worth using, but they use a cheaper lens coating, and lenses made after about 1965 are considered to be lesser overall in quality. There's even some made as late as the 80s, but these are best avoided, as consensus seems to be they are a lot softer and poorer in quality than the first decade's worth of these lenses. You can, by the way, easily determine the year of manufacture for these lenses, as it is the first two digits of the serial number embossed on the lens. As you can see, mine is from 1958, making it 60 years old, turning 61 this year, I guess. And all that said, these Soviet lenses and whatever coatings they use still tend to pale in comparison to older, proper German copies of the same kind of lens, or indeed Japanese-made equivalents from similar eras. But that's what makes these lenses attractive. Because they are plentiful in quantity, because they are relatively easy to get, offer some classic design and retro looks physically and in the end result, it all adds up to getting a very interesting classic lens, but at an affordable price. The optical path is built from 6 elements in 3 groups, and as they were designed for rangefinder cameras, this also means in today's world, it is really ridiculously easy to adapt it for use on mirrorless cameras like Sony's, and in my case, a Micro Four Thirds Panasonic, modelled here on the G85, but all the test shots I'll be showing you in a moment were shot on my GH5. I can't show you the lens on the GH5 because I'm using my GH5 to shoot the B-roll of the lens, obviously. The aperture ring lacks click stops, and while some will find this makes it too easy to unintentionally change the setting by accident, this is in fact a very desirable thing for video shooters, of course, offering seamless and silent control of aperture, meaning for quick exposure adjustments while recording. The full metal body is aluminium, which while robust and comparatively light, does make it more vulnerable to denting from drops or scratching and scuffing from more general wear and tear when compared to stainless steel, for example. But this too makes it easy to find cheaper copies of this lens, as not too many are in super clean cosmetic condition, making those the collector's items, and the other ones for knockabout actually safe to use them in the real world and not feel too paranoid about it kind of lenses. Mine isn't too bad at all, is it? Now, as far as performance goes, the end result, the only thing that really matters at the end of the day. The 9 aperture blades produce perfectly spherical bokeh balls with a pleasant ringed aesthetic at the circumference, delivering an unmistakable retro lens feeling. Of course, a 50mm lens on my Micro Four Thirds camera actually delivers a field of view akin to a 100mm lens, taking this into short telephoto range. As such, unless you have a camera with in-body stabilization, as indeed my GH5 does extremely proficiently, you're going to want to shoot supported by a tripod, or a monopod, or anything at all to avoid some pretty terrible shake. What you're seeing here is all right out of camera. I haven't done any fiddling with it in post-production. I'm using a custom picture profile on my camera, which I almost always use for shooting, which itself is very, very close to the standard default picture profile, just with the in-camera sharpening pulled back a bit and the contrast ticked down a notch to give me a gentler but still crisp and poppy picture that I can use without much or any fiddling with grading in the edit. And some stuff I have dropped to monochrome here in the edit to get a better look at tonality, and frankly because it's a retro lens and black and white film was a thing that people shot with. The video was shot at 4K, with the exception of the slow-mo stuff, which is shot at 180 FPS at 1080p, because that's what the GH5 does. In those cases, if you are watching this at 4K, I have of course blown that up, which is why it looks a little bit softer than the normal speed stuff. Manually pulling focus using the GH5's focus peaking function was pretty easy, even when wide open with a shallow depth of field. The lens's focus ring has a little nub on it, as many lenses from this era actually did, which makes absolute positioning and movement pretty easy. Although my particular copy of the lens, it is a bit stiff in the focus ring, which made moving targets a bit of a challenge, which, to be fair, is always the case when manually focusing out in the wild like this. Long equivalent focal length, manual focusing on a fully manual lens, street shooting, it's always going to be a challenge. Part of the fun though. And this lens is remarkably well behaved when it comes to chromatic aberration and similar artifacting. Better than some modern lenses I've used at triple or even quadruple the asking price, if I'm honest with you. The focus is remarkably sharp too, at least when I actually nailed the manual focus. And in more natural scenes with softer tonal backgrounds, the defocused background takes on a bit of that darling of the hipster snapper, the swirly bokeh, if only slightly. Now, I don't do a lot of portrait shooting myself, but the focal length, and in particular the crop you get on the Micro Four Thirds, combined with the f2 aperture and soft organic bokeh, do make it particularly well suited for the job of portraiture, even on my big idiot face. Now, these are old lenses, and these are Soviet-made lenses, so buying one can of course be a bit of a gamble on how good your copy winds up being, but you can get a pretty decent quality one for not a large stack of coin at all. Look for one that is in decent cosmetic shape, look for one made before the mid-60s, and it's a pretty safe bet that you'll get a decent one. And for bonus luck, look for that red Cyrillic P. Now, of course, these are fully manual lenses, so the mount adapters don't need any kind of electronics at all, and being screw mount, there's no need for even any moving parts for flange latches and such in a lens adapter, which makes these two extremely cheap and easy. I've even 3D printed one on a $150 3D printer, and it works perfectly. So whether you're after some interesting fun time shooting just for the joy of it, a bit of classic camera history that you won't be too scared or precious of to actually take out into the world and use, or are looking for a unique, classically kind of organic look for your videos or portraits, I'd say it's well worth throwing a little bit of cash at one of these Jupiter 8 Soviet lenses. Thanks for watching, I am Blunty, and I'll catch you next time.